up, Mabel! Sit down, Mabel!
Welcome back to the Film Ireland podcast. On what I believe was our last episode, you heard our top 10s of 2019. Is that correct, Sarah? Am I correct in thinking that?
Yes.
Yeah. So welcome to this next episode where we'll do our top 10s of 2020 because a year has somehow passed. Am I right in thinking that we were due to record the next episode of this the day we went into lockdown?
Yeah,
Like the exact
I
day?
think that is right. And oh no, actually, it might have been a day or two before because I was supposed to see Sea Fever instead.
Oh, Diff was on there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called. What's it called these days? Is it still Diff? A-Diff?
Adif, I think. Yeah.
Maybe A-Diff. Actually, I think Diff was probably, or A-Diff was probably the last thing I saw in cinemas before this. I think I saw Radioactive, and that was probably the last thing I saw in cinemas till, God, Tenet.
Wow.
Well, actually, I've been 3 times now since March, but I saw St. Maud last week, but we'll get to that in top 10s. But back in like August, I saw Tenet and Baby Teeth, and I'm not crying any of those films. Baby Teeth, actually, especially, was just very. I didn't like it.
Okay, I have not heard about this, so I
It's
look forward to
the funny thing is, it's got, I forget the actress's name. She plays the the one that dies in Little Women, whichever of the sisters that is.
She's Australian, is she?
Yes, she is Australian, and she was in Sharp Objects, the miniseries based on where her mother is trying to kill her, and then Baby Teeth, she has cancer and dies. So I think she's hard just typecast as dying children. But yeah, no, it's one of those cancer kid movies that starts off as not a cancer kid movie, where it's she's just finding her teenage groove and having a good time with this like idiot dealer friend of hers, and then it's like, oh, well, she has cancer and she's gonna die horribly. Oh, God's sake. I'm sure people were moved by it. I thought it was just incredibly unsubtle and anyway, look at us reviewing movies. It's like no time has passed at all.
I was nearly thinking of gaslighting our audience and being like, we've been doing this all year. Where have you been?
Yeah, all your things just failed to record or download. I suppose I might as well just quickly review Tenet while I've mentioned it, because you didn't see it, and maybe you shouldn't bother. I always forget with you and Nolan. Do you have a hatred towards Nolan, an indifference, an agnosticism?
I definitely did not enjoy Inception, because I did approach it not really knowing his stuff and thinking like this is supposed to be the new big thing, which it was, but it just wasn't very interesting. Like I just thought it's supposed to be depicting dreams, but all the dreams are like weirdly the same, and they're just like slightly exciting movie fantasies. That was kind of my introduction, and everything has been it's been a bit underwhelming, but at the same time I think at this point I'm kind of indifferent and happy to. I enjoyed Dunkirk. I think as long as I approached it without too much expectation, it's grand.
That seems fair. I know I went through my mandatory period as a male who did film studies, of being like a massive fanboy of his in, I want to say, the early 2010s, or probably earlier than that, maybe even. I really went off on the last few years. I thought Dunkirk was also great, but like Interstellar was not. Dark Knight Rises, whatever. It's got merits. Tenet is. I've seen a lot of people defending it. Not a lot of people, but I've seen some people defend it in a way that they're saying that Nolan's kind of very self-aware and sort of almost trolling his audience, which I say, fair enough. I respect taking $200 million of Warner Brothers money and making like a massive like middle finger to your audience. But at the same time, we have to watch that movie, and if you can't hear any of the dialogue, then you can't hear any of the dialogue, whether or not you're making a point about Nolan's films being dialogue heavy or not. Like people have said like Interstellar and Dark Knight Rises had a similar problem with the audio mix where it was indecipherable, and I agree, like Bane was a bit, certain memes here, but I thought they were largely fine. Tenet was literally the first time in a cinema where I was like, I wish I'd gone to a closed caption screening, because I missed, I would say, a solid 30% of the dialogue, and it's like, that's crazy, that's unforgivable. And even what dialogue you could understand or what the plot you could make out, it's fine. Like it's nice seeing. It was nice seeing that film in a cinema after so many months of not being in a cinema, because it's very big and loud, and it's very much a movie, capital M, stunt-wise and stuff. But it's just, I don't know. I think he has, willingly or ironically or whatever you want to call it, very much gone up his own arse. And it's fine. I think it's definitely of the ilk of Inception more than anything else. I don't think it's as innovative as Inception, which, as we just established, mightn't even be that innovative. So I think I'm kind of sad you didn't see it, because I feel you might have like ripped it a new one, and that would have been fun after a year of no Sarah Cullen trademark hot takes, which we might get to later on. We'll
Mm.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Uh,
My one question about the movie is:
mhm.
does it start and end with the same shot?
No, and that surprised
Oh,
me. I was expecting.
damn!
I thought it would do that too. Yeah, I think everyone kind of thought like because it's about time inversion, it would literally end with like the start of the
Yeah.
movie. And I think actually that would have been a more interesting film if they just done like at the halfway point it switches and you see the whole film again in reverse or
Ooh,
some manner. That would have been fun.
that might have been good. Yeah, I just presumed like Tenet it's a palindrome, so
Yeah. The
okay, never
film is
mind.
not.
Well, yeah.
I mean, thinking about it, I suppose one of the characters who's revealed late on to kind of have been from the future or whatever, it does sort of end where their story starts at the start of the movie. So I guess it kind of does loop in that way, but
Okay.
it's not overt enough to be like the same shot kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, what I found
Disappointing.
funny was I hadn't watched The Night Manager before I saw Tenet, so we got to chat during my lockdown catch up, and I was like, oh, similar plot to Tenet. Oh, the lead in this looks a lot like Elizabeth Debicki. That is Elizabeth Debicki.
Oh,
So she's just playing the exact same character,
wow.
like word for word almost in The Night Manager, and then whatever 3 years later, 4 years later, Tenet, which is quite
Wow.
funny and very very weird. So I guess before we get into films of merit or do we or not,
Mm.
any extraneous films to just throw in to talk about?
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually, what kind of films did you watch generally in lockdown? Or like, did you find yourself, watching any kind of particular genre or anything?
I don't know. Like I actually avoided new releases for the longest time,
Mm.
not for any particular reason. I just ended up catching up on a lot of TV shows and stuff.
Mhm.
And then in the last week, when we were recording this, I went, I better like catch up on films for this year and then have opinions on them. And I ended up watching a lot of quite bleak horror films. But
Okay.
and most of my top 10, you'll see it when I get to it. It's just
Mm.
horror films that managed to actually genuinely creep me out, but also have some kind of depressing
Mhm.
social commentary subtext.
Nice.
So I guess those. I'm trying to think what I would have watched. Yeah, because even stuff like that you kind of advised me to watch, like Palm Springs and Bavaria, I didn't watch them until like the last 2 weeks or 3
Okay.
weeks ago. I didn't see them at the time, which I know were considered like prime lockdown movies because they inadvertently foreshadowed the world.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't like expressly seek out or not seek out anything. So I'm afraid my answer is very dull of a shrug. I don't know what my my go-to
Yeah.
kind of film was.
No, that's grand. It was just I'm curious because I found myself watching almost exclusively home invasion narratives
Oh,
in the
that's good.
first
That's what
lockdown.
you want.
It was sort of me realizing like they're kind of I think they're doing exactly what they're intended to right now.
Mm.
Make boring middle class people's lives feel a little bit like more exciting for a while without actually putting them in any danger. So
What
I
one stood
enjoyed
out to
myself a
you?
lot. I watched actually Don't Breathe. I hadn't seen it yet. I really
I
enjoyed
had mean
that.
to watch that one actually. Yeah, that came
Yeah,
up
that was
during
great.
the summer. I was meant to watch it too. So that's we could have almost talked about that one.
Yeah, there. But actually, it wasn't even this year, was it? It was a couple of years
Oh
ago,
no, it was a few years
I
ago.
think. Yeah. The other kind of interesting thing about the year, well, no, yes, there's one more interesting thing about the year, and that was all the franchises that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like me suspect that they all knew something? Or maybe
Actually,
you
my
don't?
only thought in that area was I was thinking this week that I'm pretty sure it was this week last year the first trailer came out for like Black Widow, Wonder Woman 2, and Bond.
Oh,
And here we are
wow.
a year later, like these films will never exist. But yeah, your conspiracy theory is also good. Maybe in conjunction with Disney Plus and
Yeah,
Zoom, they were all just planning on this.
exactly. Yeah. Zoom, we know you were listening. I could say
Literally.
watching, but yeah, we're off the camera right now. But yeah.
Yeah. They can still see us.
Yeah, it was certainly an interesting year for film in the wrong way, probably, but still, there you go.
Endgame was fine, and Star Wars was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
really, does Star Wars ever end? As the recent Disney, what was it, investor meeting show? They have like 17 new Disney Plus shows coming, 5 more
Wow.
films. Star Wars forever and ever, never ends.
Wow. I actually, I actually thought that they were going to go more TV than films. I kind of, but I guess obviously they're not. They're just going to do everything
Yep.
forever. Yeah.
Unless those films all come out on Disney Plus exclusively, in which case, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Pretty disappointing end to the trilogy, which could have been quite good, but it wasn't. There we go.
No. I mean, I still think The Last Jedi sort of managed to be both a second and third part. That felt like the end of a trilogy. The way that film ends, like that felt like the way you would end a third film. So like, I'm happy to just in my head think that's where it stopped. It just didn't go further than that.
Very true. Yeah.
Much as I love Ian McDermott, he didn't need to be back, and he wasn't very good or well used. Look at us having Star Wars takes a year later. Who cares?
Yeah, that's true.
Did you see Cats while we're talking about timely things?
No, I didn't.
Did you not? You didn't an entire year manage to see it. Like, don't watch
Yeah,
it. But wow, I'm surprised you avoided it.
yeah. I think I don't know. I think it was something that I just thought I'm not going to be able to
It's a
sit
waste of
through,
your.
so I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, some people got a lot of joy out of it.
I think some people went in with certain, shall we say, additional substances and quite enjoyed it. Like I saw it New Year's Day, quite tired, a bit hungover, and just had a very bad time. So
Mm,
I wouldn't recommend it unless you're going in, yes, either drunk or high or I don't know,
okay.
sleep deprived or lacking in oxygen to the brain or something. I don't know. So I guess we'll jump in with our not quite top tens, our special mentions, and then talk about those as we go. Well, the first now is Little Women, and I know Little Women's
Mm,
also in your similarly not quite top 10. So, Little Women. Let's briefly talk again. This is technically a film from last year that only came out here
mm,
this year, so it's almost truly out of date. I will just say that this is the first version of that story I've ever encountered. Like, I've never read the book, I haven't seen any previous versions, and I really liked it.
oh, cool.
But from what I understand, the film is actually technically two books, is it?
Mm,
You know these things more
yeah.
than I would.
Yeah, it's because of the way that Greta Gerwig's version plays it, it's kind of hard to figure it out because
Mm,
it's usually played chronologically. But yeah, so basically, you could probably figure out the two overlapping storylines that are going on. Like usually, the first book ends when Beth doesn't die, and then basically starts again 4 years later when she
just
eventually
yeah.
does die. As someone who's seen quite a few versions now, it was quite a clever way of doing it. Yeah, the way that they did it really made parallels between the two
Mm,
parts that you maybe miss if you don't look at them that way. And also, yeah, it did just kind of keep things more enjoyable. Like not that I don't enjoy the other ways it's been done, but I think it was really clever to kind of shake it up chronologically. Christopher Nolan, I'm sure, is very happy as well.
Tenet is secretly an homage to Little Women. But they're all dead at the start. That's the way it works in these movies.
Oh
They're
yeah.
all married off and then dead. And also, of course, the now very memeable and famous Bob Odenkirk appearance, which was just delightful.
Yes.
Like I remember watching it, I had that reaction, like, oh wow, it's Bob Odenkirk, but I didn't think like everyone had that reaction. That was just a really weird thing to see. That
Yeah.
they all went, oh wow, Bob Odenkirk's briefly in this. Like, why do we all care so much?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's such an interesting actor in terms of his like arc because
Mm,
I don't know that people know him much before Breaking Bad. Like I presume that's when most people
yeah, I didn't know
came
him
across him.
before that anyway.
Yeah, there's just like there's a group of actors who came from Tim and Eric Awesome Show type Adult Swim shows.
Are you looking forward to is it called Nobody? The film he's in next year, where it's his like his Taken, his John Wick.
Oh, I don't know if I'd heard about that. That's great.
I haven't watched it yet. It came out like last week, I think. But yeah, apparently he spent like 2 years training for this, which is bizarre.
What?
'Cause
Wow.
he's an older gentleman. He doesn't need to be doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, and like, is it serious then?
I don't know. I guess maybe he just wants to do it for the hell of it, because like he's at a point in his career where he doesn't need to be doing these kind of films. So I guess
Yeah.
if he's doing one, it's because he just wants to do an action film, I suppose.
Okay.
But yeah, more power to him.
Wow. Bob Odenkirk, good. He's a good Little Women father. Well done.
Thank you for finding a way back to that, because I was like, how do we get this back to the women?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Little Women. Next on my one is Palm Springs, which I know is in your actual top
Mm.
10, so we'll get to that then.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then I think, did you also have Sea Fever in your
Yeah.
special mentions? Okay, so Sea Fever,
Mhm.
our first Irish film of the
Yeah.
night. The night? What are we talking about? Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I suppose everyone was kind of talking about it as being Alien, but on a boat in the
Mm.
Irish Sea, which is not inaccurate. I
Mhm.
thought it had some nice like Lovecrafty vibes to it. And speaking of Little Women, it had an ending that I was like, yes, why don't more films end like this, where it's I don't really want to spoil it, but I don't know how else to talk about it. But like I think a lot of those kind of films, especially if it was made in America, it would have a much more happy
Yeah.
ever after, like She
Well,
Leaves or something.
I was kind of thinking about the ending as well because I came across another film in lockdown, and it was
Mhm.
a Netflix film called The Beach House. It's kind
I've
of
heard about this. I haven't
similar.
watched it yet though.
Yeah, like it's not as good, but it like I was actually just thinking it's similar kind of themes. And also the protagonist is also, I think, like a biology student of some type.
All right.
But I was thinking that, like, as much as, like, yeah, the ending of Sea Fever is not necessarily all positive or anything, it's all, I also kind of found it, I'm not even sure how to say it, but basically it's terrible, but it's not hopeless either.
No, it's her choice, and it's very much
It's the right thing.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
the beach house ends with basically the protagonist, who, like, I guess is probably dead at this point, but basically just saying to the camera, like, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. And I think going back to even the girl with all the gifts, like, it seems like there's maybe a little bit of a theme of the idea of, like, well, we kind of have to prepare for the worst, and maybe we have to figure out ways to be okay with that.
Yep. Whatever could you be referring to, Sarah, in that kind of analogy? I don't know.
Well, it's just silly films, so
Mhm.
they don't mean anything.
Just you bringing politics into things again.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. That's actually I think a very sensible way of looking at it. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but that's correct. I think it also had some good moments of, like, creepiness and gore, and
Yeah.
Dougray Scott attempting valiantly and failing an Irish accent, which was always fun to hear.
I was wondering, like, it's kind of very diverse cast. I thought it sort of seemed like, I didn't actually know where he was supposed to be from.
Oh God, no. Nebulously the West, maybe, or is he maybe from Northern Ireland?
There was basically kind of people from all over. It kind of, I guess, kind of worked as a melting boat pot.
A melting boat isn't the same ring as melting pot. It seems a lot more aggressive and negative. Yeah, I thought it was odd to have him and what was her name? Connie Britton, is it? No, Connie, Wonder Woman's mom from Wonder Woman, the first one. I forget her name, Connie something. We finally hit back on our. Now we're on track, Sarah. I've forgotten names again. Even though we have laptops in front of us. I'm going to Google her name. Connie Nelson, thank you. Who's Connie Britton? Doesn't matter. Yeah, so the fact that I think her accent wasn't quite as dodgy, but it was odd. Like, it was odd to have the two of them, because they're both fairly big names, which is not like people made the film. I was surprised they got them, and then also that they attempted the accent.
Yeah. But actually, funny, we were talking yesterday, I think it's basically because of Wild Mountain Thyme, trying to think of people who actually do, of non-Irish people who do good Irish accents, and the main character is played by Hermione Cofield, I think is her name, and she's English.
Is
and
she?
I did not think so.
No,
I very much believed she would have been Irish. So yeah, she did a great job. I mean,
a real normal people of an actress then. That's
so fair play to her. I feel like Sea Fever might have made my top 10, but it did exactly what it was supposed to do, and it really got under my skin. Like, I found it quite hard to enjoy. Like, it was a great film, but I kind of couldn't sit still while watching it or something.
I wish I had seen it in cinema, because I only saw it on, like, VOD. I imagine it probably would have been a lot more intense and interesting in cinema. But I agree. Like, I think, given what I presume are probably inevitable budget limitations, I thought it was very effective and gory. So more power to them. Why not throw me some of your runners up?
Actually, I'll go for Death Ranch, which was
I've not heard of this.
This is one I came across on the IFI Horrorthon. So this is like sort of neo grindhouse about 3 African American siblings who are on the run from the law and take refuge in like an abandoned ranch in Tennessee, only to discover that it's like the hunting grounds for the KKK, who are also cannibals.
Oh wow! Didn't think the title would be quite so, like, literal and B-movie. That's great. I must watch this one.
Yeah, no, it's really great. It's quite a short runtime as well. It's very zippy, but in a good way, and it's quite funny as well. There's like one character in particular who was kind of the idiot member of the KKK, who's like, took the longest time to, like, die and stuff, and it was just really really entertaining, as well as, like, really satisfyingly, like, gory and everything. It was just like a great fun Halloween watch. So hopefully if you do watch it, like, please let me know, because I think it was just a lot of fun.
I'm gonna make note of it in my little list of films to watch at some point. Death Ranch. Yeah, I'd meant to check out the IFI's, what's it called, IFI at Home, isn't it? More. I only kind of really properly looked at it, like, last week again while trying to catch up on films. But it is a very good resource. I'm glad they have that. I think
it's great.
that is the only thing I will say, that I feel like on balance, a lot of like the smaller cinemas will probably survive this a lot better than the bigger ones.
True, actually,
Because I
yeah,
feel like the
yeah.
Lighthouse and stuff, they've been used to like day and day release with VOD for a few years now with like
Mm,
these little arty films. Where I think they're probably better suited to weather this kind of storm. Whereas, the Cineworld of this world can't survive without 10 Warner
yeah,
Bros. And Marvel movies every year. So,
very true.
hmm, I don't know, karma or something for all those inflated ticket prices. Do you have another one, or will I go again?
Actually, yeah, there was another horror film I watched which I very much enjoyed, which was Blood Quantum. So this is like this is on Shudder. It's Canadian film. It's like quite a standard zombie invasion narrative, except for it's set in an indigenous tribe where like all the members of the tribe are immune, and so basically they're the like one place that everyone is trying to get to,
Hmm.
and it's up to them. Like they're trying to figure out, do they have will they be able to protect everyone who comes, or do they have to like prioritize their own safety? And
Again, this sounds strangely relevant for no particular reason.
yeah, so yeah, no, it was really like a lot of fun. Like it just kind of very kind of tropey, but when it's a minority group, it suddenly becomes a lot more awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, just another film that I really really great like Halloween watch, which just kind of elevated because it's about people of color kicking white people's asses, so it's always good.
If it's going to like politics warning starts episode, just warning,
Yeah.
it may contain SJW things. Oh no, the dreaded acronym. Actually, the next thing I was talking about was Women Make Film. So yeah, that's
Ooh.
this unending, which I believe was shown as part of ADIF. I did not myself go near that marathon 14-hour screening.
Oh yeah.
I think it was split over like 2 or 3 days, though, wasn't it? I think it was like 3-hour chunks. I just bought the Blu-ray. But it's definitely worth a watch like once. I don't know if you even count it as like a film that came out this year, because it's technically a 14-hour miniseries, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they showed it in a cinema in an attempt of 1 hour block, I'm counting as a film.
Hmm.
Like, there's nothing particularly fancy about it. It is just a series of female actresses and filmmakers like Tilda Swinton and Tanya Newton, and I think Jane Fonda's one of them. Just talking over clips of films you've never heard of because they're made by women and were therefore just buried for the last 100 years. And it makes some interesting points. I think there's one bit where they're talking about a certain shot as being like quite Lynchian, and like, but why is it called Lynchian and not
Okay.
whatever that
Yeah.
director's name was? Because it probably predated him or something. Like, yeah, it's a good point. I think it's definitely worth watching once. I just put it on, and just let it wash over you, and just have a notepad to hand so you can take down the list of all the films. Like, that looks weird.
Mm-hmm.
One of which I only found on Mubi there 3 days ago, and it was deeply weird and messed up, but I'm glad I watched it.
Nice.
Apparently it was Gaspar Noé's wife, which I didn't realize when I was watching it. And that
Wow.
actually makes a lot more sense in hindsight. But yeah, if you can find it, Women Make Film is definitely worth 14 of your human hours.
Great.
I think I only have one left that isn't Palm Springs. So what have you got?
Oh yeah, I have Lola. It was from the IFI, the French Film Festival. It's a trans teenager whose mother has died, and she's living in care, but kind of basically she doesn't want to reunite with her father, but they end up kind of driving across the country to return the mother's ashes to where they used to kind of go on holidays. Well, what I found really interesting is that the film it does a really interesting job of showing that like the father is more concerned with the bodily autonomy of like a dead person than he is about his daughter. That was quite clever, and I think it does quite a good job as well of showing that he's not a likable guy. You shouldn't forgive him. The reason that he resents his daughter is because he never got the chance to realize his own dreams and things. So it's a very kind of, I suppose, personal bigotry.
Right, yeah.
Which, not I don't know if it makes it worse or better, but like basically it gives you hope that maybe he can figure his own stuff out. And yeah, so I thought it was just like a really good examination of rubbish that trans people have to put up with, but hoping that maybe people can figure it out and start being nicer to them. So I hope. But yeah, it was good film.
That. I was actually thinking last week for some reason about I haven't seen that many what I like kind of positive or good films about trans experiences. That one sounds quite good. Like I watched Tomboy again on Mubi, I think, during the lockdown. That was absolutely great. I'd recommend that really a lot. But that one sounds really good. Because like
Yeah.
the last ones I can think of that were notable were like The Danish Girl, which is just dirt.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I was kind of, what was the film? It was called Girl. There we go.
Yes.
But yeah, like when you have like a cis director basically going like, oh well, we tried to find trans actors, but none of them just quite fit my narrow idea of what a trans woman or trans girl should be like.
So here's Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah,
I
cool.
understand.
Exactly. But yeah, I have another film about trans experiences on my top 10. So I thought there were some really good ones this year.
Okay, so my last honorable mention is His House, which is a Netflix release. It's basically just your standard. This is gonna kind of go to what you were saying about standard films, but like non-white people making them better. It's kind of just like a standard ghost story haunted house film, but it's all about immigration and like these.
Oh, I think I have heard of this actually. Yeah.
It's definitely worth a watch. But like they're fleeing some like war-torn country, and they're what is the word? I've entirely forgotten the word. Not immigrant, but refugee. God, brains are not working anymore. It's been a long year. The vocabulary just was the first to go. But yeah, so like making the source of the ghosts something unique was quite good. Like it isn't just like, oh, someone in the family died. Like there's a kind of a twist of sorts halfway through about like what really happened while they were escaping. And it's a very bleak film, I'm not gonna lie. Although the ending is strangely happy, like they kind of come to peace with things and whatever. But it isn't. It's not like Insidious. It's not some easygoing horror film where you're just like you sit back, you have your popcorn, and you just do some jumps here and there. No, there is like some genuinely like freaky imagery, and then also some quite heavy, unsubtle thematic stuff going on. Like it's not even one of those films where you can be like something akin to say. I guess like Possessor, which we'll get to later on, maybe is like sort of like there's stuff going on about identity and losing yourself to your job and whatever. But like you could probably ignore that if you wanted to and just watch the gory stuff. Whereas this one, I don't think you could escape like the political allegory at all, even if you try to, which is good. I think more films should be like that, unsubtle. But
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I think that's also a fairly zippy runtime. Now I say zippy, it isn't like an action whoosh bang film. It's quite slow and just people going around their house a lot, but it's very good. I'd recommend it.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. I've been meaning to watch that, so I will have to do that soon now.
I feel like we owe the general audience listening to this podcast like one. I feel like I should put like Tenet in here or something. Just like, no, Tenet's great. Go watch Tenet. Just
yes,
something that isn't, I don't know, really heavy going or allegorical or quote unquote political.
True. That is true. Yeah. Well, tough for them.
No, it's okay. I have Birds of Prey in my top 10. It's fine.
Hey, there we go. Excellent.
Although no, it's women though. Women are political.
Yeah, damn. Well, I think my other animal mention was Invisible Man, so I think that's on your top 10.
It is indeed.
I mean, should we transition to them now?
I suppose we shall. Did you have The Lighthouse in your top 10? This feels like an off my conversation, but it's happening. Listen to it.
It is.
You did, okay.
I did.
I didn't because I had it in my top 10 last year, so I didn't count it. But I want to reiterate that it's very good.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that now. Actually, go for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Start with The Lighthouse.
Kind of the perfect movie for the year in a lot of ways. I was thinking about it when I was kind of doing a bit of research for the pod, and I was kind of realizing I don't really remember the plot, but I also feel like that's kind of doesn't really matter. Like it nearly felt like an experience.
There's barely a plot. There's a series of events that happens. It's not really a plot.
Yeah. And I think actually kind of similar to Robert Eggers' other film, The Witch, as well. Like they're kind of just more about like really feeling horribly claustrophobic and like just as though you can't get out of the film in the same way that the characters can't. What I loved about The Lighthouse was that it feels like a film that is going to mean something very different to whoever is watching it. I know for me, for me anyway, I couldn't stop thinking about all the gatekeeping that goes on in like academia because that's where I am, or that's where I was.
I mean, that's not an unfair reading now that you say it, but I would never have thought of that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. I remember I was watching it with my brother, who I think was saying just like, you kind of know someone, or like these people, I think these characters evoke kind of the type of people that you've probably encountered one way or other in your life, or situations that you've encountered. So I don't know, I could just imagine that everyone sort of projects their own life experiences onto the film.
Their least favorite manager they worked with in retail on Willem Dafoe. Yeah. Now that you say it, you're probably right. It is sort of a Rorschach test of your worst customer experiences and things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it was robbed at the Oscars. I know the Oscars mean functionally
Mm.
nothing, and actually we'll get to that again later maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, the fact that neither Defoe nor Pattinson got anything is just
Yeah.
outrageous. They were both fantastic. I think Pattinson is he's unassailable. I don't know how culture ever had a point where we all hated him, because I
Yeah,
can't think of a
that's
bad performance in the last like 7 years he's turned in.
yeah, that's so true. I did hear people say that his accent was not of anywhere, maybe even intentional. I don't know.
Yep, very true. But also, like, they
Um,
were trying to recreate like an accent from what, like 150 years ago. It doesn't
yeah,
really exist
yeah.
anymore. So
So in that way, maybe it's just everyone assumes it's supposed to be their accent, and it was
maybe.
actually I don't know.
I think it does definitely in the opening, maybe half an hour, like it distracts a bit, because it does, yeah, it sort of sounds like it's a few different accents, and it doesn't quite settle for a while. Whereas
Mm,
Defoe has a more generic kind of pirate voice, so it's like
true.
this is fine. This I understand.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and their performances definitely helped to made a lot of the like claustrophobia and the just incredibly horrible feeling of the whole film. So they did really well.
And again, memes. It gave us many, many
Yes,
memes.
and that's all we want these days.
It's all that lets us live anymore.
Yes.
Vicariously through memes. Um, so I guess I'll say The Invisible Man then, since that was
Ooh.
previously mentioned.
Mm.
Again, just in the sense of it was a horror film that creeped me out, and it also had a very unsubtle social message going on.
Mm.
Not social message, but like allegory, subtext, whatever you want to call it. It was also heightened by the fact that I saw it in a cinema that was fairly empty, and the woman in front of me was just one of the best audience members I've ever seen, because she could not handle it. I think she must have been like a big Elizabeth Moss fan or something. I went to
Oh,
see it based on The Handmaid's Tale, and she just could not handle horror films. It
wow.
was fabulous. Like, every tense moment, she was like grabbing her face and just like
Oh.
not quietly, but saying like Jesus and oh God. And then the like the attic bit when
Mm.
she like throws the paint and like reveals the thing,
Oh
she like
yeah.
full on blood curdle screamed, and I was so
Wow.
happy. It was
That's
so it brought me
amazing.
so much joy. But the film's also very good.
Mm.
Um, it really annoys me that Elizabeth Moss is a Scientologist, because she's so good
So
in everything
weird,
she's
yeah.
in.
I mean, she's Tom Cruise again, right? Like they get really good actors,
Yeah.
and they're so like chameleon-like or something that
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know which comes first, being good at acting to joining Scientology, or joining Scientology and you sell yourself to the devil and become really good at acting. I don't know.
Maybe that's the secret.
Maybe.
Tom Cruise is impervious to all damage, and Elizabeth Moss is just like a phenomenally good actor.
Kind of weird as well that she's cornered the market on like feminist
Mm.
depictions while also being a Scientologist. Yeah,
Yep. Like the fact that the whole film is about like trying to escape a strange presence that's sort
that's
of
a good
following you
point.
around. I was like,
Yes.
Is this like that
Yeah.
whole Nicole Kidman thing again?
Mm.
Or no, it was. But yeah, I think like the last maybe half an hour kind of lost me a bit when it gets a bit too action heavy.
Yeah.
Like the whole
Yeah.
hospital escape was a bit much. Like, it looked good, but like, it didn't feel like it it fit with the rest of the tone.
Mm.
The very end, though, again, like Sea Fever, is not the kind of ending I would have expected that kind of film to have, but I thought
True.
it was good and necessary, and I'm glad it had it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, not
That's
to
definitely
spoil
fair.
it, but it was again like it was, yeah, a woman like very much taking her destiny into her own hands in a way that was not Hollywood conventional, I suppose. But I
Mm-hmm.
was thoroughly impressed by. Actually, the film took a lot of risks in a lot of ways. Like, I think the dinner scene with her sister, the direction that goes, I was like
Yeah.
fully shocked at as it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess from the guy that made the first Saw film, you kind of expect these kind of things.
The kitchen scene where the burner just suddenly goes on and things like that.
Mm,
That might have been the most disturbing part of the film for me. It's when it's like kind of understated and
yeah,
you're still not quite sure how things are going to happen. Yeah, really good, really unsettling horror. It was great.
like I know it's one of the things of you go in, you know there is a literal invisible man. So the whole, is she just going crazy, or is she like doing this to
Mm.
herself or whatever? Like, you know she's not, but it's still, I think it was like effectively enough like written and directed that you can see the plausible deniability of that. Like, you can almost trick yourself into
Mm.
thinking that maybe she is just going, like, you obviously know she's not, but you're just there's somewhere where it's like, well, maybe.
Yeah, no, very true.
Which is a sign of a very well made film. Even like when you know the twist, it's not even a twist, that was it. It's the title.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I thought it was great. I know it wasn't quite as good as For You, but still,
I
it's
still
good.
liked it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. All right, throw one of yours out.
Yeah, I guess actually following on from the documentary you were talking about, I really enjoyed Disclosure which is
I've
a
been meaning to watch that for so long. I'm
oh,
never
it's
around to it yet.
so Trans Lives on Screen is the subtitle. It's really great. I really enjoyed Horror Noir from from last year. I feel like it would be a really good companion piece. But having said that, it would kind of be a companion piece with any other really good documentary on kind of like minorities in film. But this was just really interesting look at like how trans people have been represented and misrepresented across like TV and film. Yeah, like it's interesting because it does look at kind of the big touch points that people would know, like the Silence of the Lambs and Ace Ventura and things like that. But it's also like kind of looks at how weirdly and hugely subtle some of the transphobia can be. Yeah, one of the actors who was Candace Kane, I think she was like the first repeat actress on Dirty Sexy Money. So yeah, like she had the first role in multiple episodes. Basically, when she tuned in to watch the first episode that she was on, she realized that they'd like lowered her voice in
Oh,
post.
Jesus.
So it's just like stuff like that is probably like it's kind of just pointing out the subtle ways that like we're basically always being programmed to view trans actors and trans people as different, and that like you probably just aren't going to realize. So it was like a really kind of it was kind of quite eye-opening, and as well as just being very interesting and really sad that there sort of wasn't as much examples of trans representation as there should be in either way, positive or negative, which is kind of quite frustrating as well. But at least it's kind of showing that there's so much to be done, and hopefully we'll see more positive, but just more would be good at this point, I think. Yeah, it's a really interesting watch, and it's on Netflix, so like it's very much
I will
recommended.
definitely get to it at some point. I suppose to keep on the theme of politics, Birds of Prey, which I feel guilty putting in there because like it's just barely not trash. But in a year of no other superhero films or comic book films, I kind of don't feel too guilty putting this one in. I think if there was like a load more, I'd be like, well. And also, it flopped horribly because it was too political. So that's a good sign. I don't have much to say about it. Like it's just quite good fun. Margot Robbie commits to Harley Quinn in a way that I think someone of her stature and career doesn't need to. Like she's really into playing that character, and it's an admirable performance in terms of this level of bug-eyed, like weirded out, cocaine-fueled intensity. And it's just quite fun. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is also very good in it because I think she's not typecast, but she's always kind of reliably kind of this sort of confident, cool girl person in movies a lot of the time. And she nicely plays like kind of an awkward, like socially inept person in this, who's also a murderer. But that's whatever. I think it's a nice. We're back to this again. It's a nice breezy watch. It's some fun violence. Ewan McGregor is absolutely excellent as this like the really camp, self-absorbed villain who's just all of the toxic male traits in one. Nice. And with that, I will stop saying political buzzwords that will get us hashtagged to death by MRAs online. But yeah, Birds of Prey is really, really good, and I'm glad it was the only real superhero film that came out this year. We'll see. I don't believe that.
Well, I'm going to go for it. We're not going to go away from politics. Sorry. So yeah, this is a documentary called Love Child. So yeah, a family from Iran who like went into exile because mother and father had a child while they were both married to other people. So this is basically this is against the law. They had to flee to Turkey. It's kind of documenting them over, I think it's maybe a decade. It's from like basically it goes up to I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, looking at them trying to travel to the US and to get citizenship there, which, spoiler alert, they don't in the end. It was a really interesting experience watching it because it was far more kind of nail biting than I would have anticipated it being. Like every time that they are trying to get a passport, get married, like basically get anything, it's so incredibly fraught. It's like you're just begging that they get everything on time, that everything gets approved, that they stay away from basically whoever is trying to possibly take them back to Iran. Someone pointed out like it sort of puts you in the shoes of these people in ways that like a lot of similar similar kind of documentaries don't. And it's as well, like it kind of made me realize how much the US has changed in a way I hadn't really thought about before. Like just the fact that the landscape for refugees and asylum seekers is just completely different now. I guess if you're well, if you're like me and live in a wealthy country and don't have to worry too much about things like that, it hadn't struck me how much harder and more horrific that experience must be now. So it was a really really interesting documentary, and just it sort of, I suppose, involved me emotionally in ways I wasn't expecting to. So it was really interesting, and I'd recommend it.
I think I will jump next to The Assistant, which again, I'm afraid, capital P, politics. Do you know this one?
I don't think so.
I think it again, like, kind of did the award circuit and then just kind of got dropped on VOD. Actually, this is what we didn't talk about really at all in our preamble bit, was that for all the films that didn't come out, like the films that did come out were almost not, I don't want to say almost all of them, but like a lot of them were like female directed. And I felt like they just thought, like, what can we dump on VOD? And like to put content out, like, well, all these women films won't make money, so let's put these out. But I also think they probably found a better audience this way because people are maybe more open to new content.
Possibly, yeah.
But this one it's very much inspired by like Weinstein and that whole the Me Too movement and stuff. And it's about a woman who works in a New York production office of some unnamed film company, and it's just literally one day of her work. Like it actually feels very documentary like, and I think the director does a previous documentary work. And it's her just having to like do all the menial interny tasks for some big shot. You never see the guy, you only just hear him on phones or hear him like distance.
Oh, okay.
The Weinstein-esque fellow, and just dealing with all of his like little crappy errands that often involve like picking up women to bring over for auditions and then like booking hotels, and she tries to go to HR to like basically war. It's basically showing like how impossible it would have been for anyone to really get Weinstein caught for what he did and how difficult that is. It's an incredibly bleak film. I'm not gonna lie, like there's no happy ending here. Like it's an upsetting watch, but it's also a very like revealing watch. That like, there's all these people that are technically not collaborators, like they would have known what was happening, but also it's sort of like a cone of silence. Like they were all would have been powerless to do anything about it. Like there's so many layers of shielding him from getting caught, and yet also there's no immediate way of like really blaming these people because like no one's going to like stop it. So it's not a fun watch, but it's borderline a horror film. It's very subtle, it's very quiet. It's one of those films that has like really high critical scores and like Rotten Tomatoes and like a 0 from the audience. So nothing happens, it's boring. That's the point. But it's great. Like it's a phenomenally good, uncomfortable watch, and I recommend it if you want to just have a bad time. In a good way. No, not in a good way. In an interesting way.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that kind of seems. I know this is a bit early for this segue, but it does seem like there's been a couple of horrors that are movies that are like almost horror, like this year. I've got Have It on my list too, and probably have it higher up, so we can wait till later. But I was just thinking, I'm thinking of Ending Things, kind of quite similar. Is it a horror? I'm not sure, but
it certainly felt like it at points. But we'll get to that. I actually have a few like that on my own. So we'll return to this subject soon. Just since I know it's on yours, do you want to do Palm Springs now, or do you want to say that for higher? Are we actually doing numerical? We're not really doing numbers here.
Yeah, not really. Like I kind of had a kind of a top 5 and then a bottom 5.
We can wait. No, we can keep going.
No, but I'm happy to talk. Like maybe we might want to talk about that because it's marginally more positive than the others.
Sure.
Like marginally.
And I can't think of much politics in it, so I think we might be okay on this one.
Exactly. This is a movie I watched near the start of the year, and I've been like bugging other people to watch. So so thank you for watching it.
Well, I'd heard about it when it came out, and it was like actually another one that you'll be talking about, Vivarium, which everyone talked about, and I was like, I'll get to it at some point. I just didn't care enough, and also I was like, it's sort of inadvertently very lockdown. Okay. Because I like Andy Samberg. I knew it was a comedy. Like I don't know why. Honestly, I don't know why I didn't watch it sooner. Because when I did watch it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think like my one the reasons like it's not my top 10 is probably just because I think it's kind of quite a slight film. Like there's not. Now I'm willing to be turned around this. Like there wasn't that much going on in it. Like it's just a well-crafted comedy, and I can't fault that. Like I laughed a lot during it. I even thought the ending was okay, even though it's a bit schmaltzy, but not too much so. It was like an acceptable level. Like I was probably maybe hoping for something a little bit more like a Hot Rod kind of movie. Again, just because Andy Samberg's there, and it's a bit more traditional, I suppose, than that. And the concept's obviously kind of sci-fi and heightened and whatever, but I think it's a much more traditional rom-com, I suppose, just dressed up in a sci-fi outfit, if that allegory makes sense. But no, I did really enjoy it, so please regale me with why it's even better than I think it is.
No, I think you're probably right. I tend to enjoy films when they kind of do the tropes and do them really right. Like I think when a film can pull that off, I'm really impressed. I kind of nearly want to say if you haven't seen the film, like don't listen, go and see it. Like it's because I went into it completely blind, and I think the fact that I did was part of the reason why I was so happy about it, because I do really enjoy the whole groundhog thing that some films have managed to do really well.
Yeah, because you were big in the Happy Death Day, weren't you, as well?
Yeah.
I've not seen the sequel to that, actually. That's another on my long list of films to get to.
It had me wondering, and you kind of know more about like film history.
We'll see.
Well,
okay.
So no, but I was just curious, like, are there any other kind of subgenres that have been so established in the modern era in a way that I feel like the Groundhog Day thing is now? It's like a very recognizable type of film, and I can't think of anything else that has sort of established itself in such a short period of time, but it's very recognizable.
All that comes to mind is like found footage, but I think that's a bit broader. Like Groundhog Day, it's literally one film that just I don't know.
As well, I think I was just really impressed by like Andy Samberg. Like he's never really played a role like that before that I can think of. Like, and he genuinely, I remember like at the beginning of the film, just going like he seems a lot more grizzled than he should be. What's going on? And so really played the role very well. And I was surprised at how like invested I got in the characters. Yeah, it doesn't go much deeper than that. I think I just thought it was a very well made movie, and kind of it was also bleak at times, which is important for me. I always need my bleakness in my movies.
Oh yeah, I mean that one was barely bleak. That one's it's bleak in the sense of, I guess, like the millennial existence of just not caring and then learning to care.
Yeah.
If you describe it like that, it sounds awful, but like it's much better than that makes it sound.
Well, I mean, I suppose there is also that sort of existential fear of like living day and day forever and never changing, and especially for J.K. Simmons's character, the fear that his children will never grow up and stuff like that. I suppose that was kind of sad.
Yeah, like I was just more his character. I quite liked his character. He was kind of interesting. Mainly probably because it was J.K. Simmons, heavily armed and murdering people. That was, I guess. But yeah, no, he was great. I agree. I think Samberg, there was definitely some like the more dramatic moments where I don't know if he's really that great at them. I think he kind of went right to the line of his abilities, but luckily, like his co-lead, like she could kind of shoulder the weight of those scenes. Yeah, she was great. So if it had been like weaker in the casting sense, it might have fallen apart a bit more. But I agree. Like I do think it was really solid and just thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Very funny. I think the bit with the crossbow and the cake, or the bit with the plane, just I laughed quite a lot. I'm trying to think what to do next because all of mine are kind of bleak. I guess I got the bleaks out of the way. So Relic is an Australian horror film, which I suppose sort of 2 parts Babadook, 1 part Hereditary. It's about a grandma who goes missing and then shows up again, and she's like she can't quite remember what's happened. So the daughter and the granddaughter move in to just like keep an eye on her. But then there's spookings do be happening around the house, and it's all I guess not spoilers, but so much I think. But it's all an allegory for dementia and sort of the idea of like grieving for someone while they're still alive. And again, in a similar vein, something like Sea Fever, the ending, were just an American film, would be very different, and I think very much shitter. The ending is, despite visually being very much still a horror film and kind of gross body horror to a point, is really quite sad and touching.
Mm-hmm.
I was thoroughly impressed by it. Like, it's genuinely very scary at points. 'Cause it's really subtle horror. There's no real jump scares, and it's just very subtle. Like, you just see like a small thing moving in the background, but it's really effective in its build up, and like it doesn't waste any time. Like, it's only 90 minutes, and it's perfectly timed like build up.
Mm.
Because I think Hereditary, much as I do like that film, it's too long, and
Mm.
I think it's too bombastic, especially in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this deals with like very similar ideas of like inherited like mental illness or like biological degradation kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, Hereditary was very much about that same topic. I forget Hereditary's. Did she have dementia too? I think she did. The grandmother. And that there was something
Mm.
similar, but this one's much more overt, and I just think it handles that whole thing a lot better and
Mm.
a lot more effectively, and it just genuinely sadly. Like, I think Hereditary managed to be very emotionally ruinous in the sense of like that
Mm-hmm.
bit with the car is just devastating to watch.
Mm.
Like, there's nothing of that kind of peak in Relic,
Okay.
but I think it's a much more solid baseline of just quiet dread and genuine sadness.
Yay.
So if you think you can handle a film that's really about dementia and not particularly
Mm.
subtle about it, then I'd recommend it. But yeah, it's again, it is not a fun watch, but it's a very good watch.
Mm-hmm.
So just double bill that and The Assistant. Feel terrible at
Ah.
life.
Yeah. Well,
My recommendation for Christmas.
it does sound kind of like in the same vein as the Babadook.
No, it definitely is. It's also
Mm-hmm.
Australian, so
Yes. So
that's all
yeah.
they make. Just sad, unsubtle horror films. And again, it's all women. It's three women in the film. I think it's directed by a woman. There's some male
Oh no.
characters, but they're very ancillary. I
Wow.
know. I have fully cooked myself with this list. That's
Wow.
CUCKED, not yeah. Give us an upbeat one, Sarah.
Yeah. Oh. So I
It's
think
okay. I know you don't have one.
this one is really off the wall. It's very strange. It's probably the strangest film I've seen in quite a while. It's Japanese animated film called Violence Voyager.
Excellent. All those words. I'm already in love with this.
Yes.
I haven't heard of this, but I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah. It is so bizarre. So the animation style is it's called Gekimation, kind of what South Park does. In that it's like
Okay.
it's paper dolls basically in front of like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
static background, as it were.
It's
So yeah, basically they just like move the paper dolls up and down like they're on sticks or something. So that's the only like movement that you see throughout it. It's about an American boy who's now living in Japan, and it's kind of very much like a fairy tale setup that he wants to go and visit friends who live on the other side of the mountain. But when he's traveling there with his own friend, they kind of come across, it's like a role-playing amusement park where you get like water pistols and shoot at like plastic aliens.
that sounds amazing. That's a thing. Wow.
Yeah, already the drawing style is really, everything's kind of very strangely exaggerated. Every character in it has weird crosses across their forehead except for the protagonist. Like literally it seems like everyone in the town is clones, but this is not a plot point that is brought up at any point.
Okay.
And so yeah, very quickly it goes from they're playing in this outdoor fun park for kids to this is literally happening. Children are turning into weird aliens, and by the second half basically children trapped like under the earth being turned into aliens, being fed to aliens. A lot of
What was
body
it called
horror.
again? Violence Voyager?
Violence
Violet?
Voyager. Yeah.
Okay, just making a note of that one.
Yeah, it's really worth seeing. And what's I think kind of most disturbing about it is it's like so incredibly earnest.
Right.
Even at the end, there's still this idea that like, you know, the little boy is coming to the end of his journey, and oh, yeah, I suppose in a sense it's like they never lose their innocence, but at the same time, it's sort of like their innocence was really like creepy and distorted the whole time. It's by far the strangest film I've seen in a long time, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it if you do watch it.
I think it was you that recommended Tag to me as well, wasn't it? Which isn't quite the same thing, but it was like a similar
Exactly. It definitely
bizarreness.
That was the last really weird film that I've seen. So
excellent. Yeah. Okay, I love Tag, so I will definitely check that one out. That's now jump to the top of the list of your recommendations. Like all the more meaningful, important films have now dropped out. I want to see the weird thing. Um, okay, I'm gonna try to just fly through some of these because I think we still have kind of have quite a lot left to get through, and it's
Mm.
we've been here for so long, days, weeks, who knows?
Oh
It's a
yeah.
full life situation. Okay, so quickly, Possessor, which is the new baby Cronenberg movie. Brandon, I want to
Oh
say.
wow, cool.
David Cronenberg's son. I
Yeah.
forget it. I think it's Brandon. And it's got Andrea Riseborough in it, and it looks a bit like Mandy. So like, huh, here she is, a strangely typecast in these surreal, dreamy movies. Um, it's about desensitizing yourself to violence and losing yourself in your job and losing your identity. And I don't really want to. It's one of those films again that like the more you know, the worse you'll.
Okay.
The worse like you should go in as blind as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a darker, kinkier Inception. Um, I think you'd probably like it more than you liked Inception.
Probably yes.
But it is also incredibly violent. And that's kind of the point. Like it's sort of the idea of like her character's fetishization of violence to the extent of like to the more than anything else is sort of a plot point or an implied plot point. And there is some sequences that are definitely practical effects and are truly, truly horrible.
Wow.
Sean Bean is there. Sean Bean gets very badly. I'm not even sure if he dies or not.
Okay.
But you do see his eye gouged out with a fire poker in very
Ooh.
close-up detail, and it's not pleasant. But it's worth your time, I think, if you like squishy horror movies and just
Nice, yeah.
if that vague setup of kinky Inception sounds good, I think you'll probably like it. But it's a good one.
Cool. I really liked Antiviral, so I can
I've
only
still not
imagine.
seen that, but yeah,
Okay.
it is yes, that person.
Great.
Okay, give me a quick fire one.
Ooh, yeah, okay, Lingua Franca. So this is another film about trans experience. So it's Isabel Sandoval. She's both the she's both the director and the protagonist. So she's actually supposed to, kind of similar to Love Child, and it was a really interesting film for looking at like how America has changed very quickly, because she's an undocumented immigrant, and she's working for a family who she's looking after an old woman whose son then returns home because he's kind of out of work looking for a job. Yeah, this sort of kind of start having a relationship, and I really liked the film for a lot of reasons, but one was it's kind of nearly like the Kuleshov effect, or maybe the Kuleshov effect in reverse, because a lot of the film is it doesn't really give you motivation for why people are doing what they do. The camera will linger on their face, and you kind of, it's up to you to like decide like, oh, did he ask her out for this reason, for that reason, or like, why did she decide to do X, Y, and Z? Like, and I don't think there's many films that kind of let you fill in the blanks in that way a lot. So I don't know.
Kind of exhausting to watch, but also very interesting.
Maybe, yeah. Really enjoyed it, and it's also a film that has like more than one trans person in it, which is kind of nice as well. It shouldn't be
noteworthy, but
it shouldn't be noteworthy, but like, yeah, the idea that like trans people, like maybe they have their own customs, their own culture that like they don't necessarily have to share with cis people all the time. It's kind of a nice thing, I think, to have in a film. So yeah, that's Lingua Franca. Yeah, that was one of my top 5. Definitely really liked it.
There's 2 I want to get to that are both ones I think you're gonna I want to hear you fight me on a little bit. So I'm gonna just do them together, or like do one quick one first. Okay, I'll do Saint Maud really quickly first. Saint Maud is another film about a woman, and it's also bleak and depressing. So yeah. I think this one's a bit more. I certainly, while watching it, got a sense of sort of a very jet black sense of humor running through it, and I don't want to explain it, but the very last shot made me laugh out loud. In just the way that the last shot's really violent and horrible, but it's just it's what it represents is very funny in comparison to what everything else. Like, it's about this nurse, and she's very religious. She found God after some kind of incident happened in her previous nursing job, and now she's doing like private home care for a character, the actress of whom she was brilliant, but I kept wondering why she wasn't Gillian Anderson, because she looked like her and sounded like her, and just get her in there. Who's like this aging like socialite sort of lesbian artist person, and so obviously the very God-fearing nun like Maud comes in, and then it's all about, it's kind of like if Possessor is like a kinky Inception, this is like an evil version of Portrait of a Lady on Fire, where it's just instead of like recognizing queerness and like embracing it and having a lovely fulfilling time, it's like, no, I must reject my queerness and then love God more, and then start a fire or something. So it's kind of a portrait of loneliness and
On fire?
isolationism and what?
But on fire as well.
But on fire, yes. Um, but it's again, it's not really as much of a horror film. Like, it was definitely billed as one, and I feel like if people went in expecting a horror film, they probably been disappointed. It's more of just I'd say, psychological thriller, chiller sort of drama thing with little inflections of horror. And there's one moment that really reminded me of The Witch, actually. But yeah, there's like little touches of it, and then the end is just slightly mad. And then if like me, you're a horrible person and picked up on this vague sense that the film is kind of mocking its protagonist for being so in love with Jesus and shit, the last shot's very funny, in a really dark, fucked up way.
Nice.
But yeah, so I think that's the last of my really bleak ones. So good, that's that done.
Wow. Well, I'll throw in a really bleak one, I guess.
Yay!
Just to balance things out. So yeah, this is one of the films actually from the beginning of the year, which I think I only realized at the end. It was like, oh, that was really good and really bleak. It's called Beanpole. It's a Russian.
Heard of it?
Yeah. It's a Russian film set in Leningrad just after World War II, and it's kind of about two women. One is called Beanpole because she's so tall, and sounds a little bit like Saint Maud in that like they both kind of despise each other, but like also really need each other. There's like definitely there's like definitely queer subtext there, and actually probably text as well. But the two of them have basically come home from war and are one of the Beanpole is working in a hospital. The other woman, Masha, basically says to Beanpole, well, you owe me. I've had a hysterectomy, but I want a baby, so now.
Right.
And it goes from there. It's like really incredibly bleak because it's basically like, well, what do you do in a country where like everyone is suffering from PTSD, and you still have to like survive and have subsequent generations. So yeah, it was really good, and the cinematography was amazing. But yeah, I don't know if you should double bill it with Saint Maud, because I think that would be pretty bleak night in. Maybe you should.
I think any double bill of anything we've just so far probably
yeah.
I think it's been that kind of year, I guess.
Very true.
Yeah, you were asking like what kind of film did I watch during lockdown. I think we both watched the same kind of film during lockdown, just really depressing shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so quickly, Uncut Gems, which I liked for a lot of the same reasons, not directly, but in like a meta sense of Palm Springs, which is I just thought it was very well made. I can't remember being quite as intensely wrapped up in a film's sense of tension as that. Like, I saw it in The Lighthouse, I don't know, 2 years ago, who knows at this point, it must have been January probably, and there was a fire drill in the middle of it, like the fire alarm went off and the screen stopped and everyone was like, oh god, no, put it back on. Not in the middle of it, no, it was actually near the end. It was actually quite near the end of it.
No.
And everyone was like going insane, like, no, you can't leave it, like, please, we don't care about the fire, just put it back on. Which I think made me realize like how into it I'd gotten, like how caught up.
Yeah, wow.
Like, it's a real like knot in your chest kind of movie. Just like, this is awful and I hate this, but it's really engrossing. And now the point I will allow you to come in on, I will say Adam Sandler. I thought he was fantastic in this. Now, I don't disagree with what you're going to say in a second, that he is just doing what he always does, but I think it's more how he was used. Like, it's less that his performance was better and more that they knew how to use that properly. Like, it wasn't just a gross out, dumb frat boy comedy. It was, here's an awful person, and here's like just the ridiculous life they could have, and how to bring the maximum amount of like tension out of that, because they just can't make a good decision. And every time they come close to like achieving some semblance of making their life easier, they make it worse because they're addicted to gambling and addicted to like the high of that. And it's a deeply stressful movie, but it felt oddly cleansing at the same time.
I remember like really intensely disliking it while watching it, and kind of thinking afterwards like there was really a lot of really interesting stuff in it. I remember I think it was someone was calling it the most Jewish movie ever, and the sort of the stuff about his Jewishness I found really interesting. I think I felt like there was nearly 2 films going on in it.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see more of that. And I know you could probably argue like it was actually all extremely Jewish in some ways. I didn't appreciate Sandler's performance in the way that maybe I
That's
should have.
fair.
And I think because of as a result, I was just sort of like, he's really getting in the way of what could have been a really interesting movie. But having said that, I think I can understand why other people enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely a movie I wouldn't mind watching again. Maybe not straight away,
Yeah.
but like I think I'd like to come back to it and see what I think about it with like a good bit of distance.
That's as fair as you can ask, I think. For that's yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, I go through another one quickly.
Mhm.
I already mentioned it, but this is the film I saw during, in the last 9 months in cinemas, which was Herself. This is kind of amazing because it was directed by Phyllida Lloyd, who I realized, I learned quite soon afterwards that she directed Mamma Mia. So Herself is a movie about like an Irish woman
Oh.
basically building a house from scratch because she's on social housing, and this is basically the only way she can like support her family. And I was kind of like, Mamma Mia, that's sort of weird, but okay, like kind of, women doing stuff, I guess it's cool. But then I
It's
also
a very
found
broad genre.
yeah, but it gets even broader because she also directed The Iron Lady.
Oh
So like,
God.
I don't
What a
know what's
storied career.
going on there, but I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but I was very surprised to find this wasn't directed by an Irish person. Like, it feels like it's an extremely Irish film in pretty much every way. So I don't know whether a British director who appreciates being thought of as Irish. I'll let them decide. This is another really gripping film that I wasn't expecting to be so gripping, because it is about someone building a house.
Yeah.
But it's a really intricately written script, because like it's just about her everyday life, but it's kind of drawing to get together so many different strands really well. Like, this woman is trying to get custody of her kids. She's trying to juggle, part-time jobs. She's also trying to avoid welfare chasing her down, while she's like basically building a house on the sly. It's just kind of one of those films that I guess on the face of it seems very pedestrian and like very simple, but it's doing so much. Just you get so invested in, like, will she be able to cobble together enough, material? Will she be able to do X, Y, and Z while trying to hide from the authorities? Yeah, it kind of, as I said, like, I ended up crying twice during it, because it's just like, this is just like, is she gonna do it? So it's a great film. I really, really enjoyed it.
I'll add that to my list as well, just Okay, I'll quickly do you have Portrait of a Lady on Fire in yours?
No, actually,
Okay,
I've yet to see it. I really, really want to, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say quickly then. It's kind of like, I don't have much to say about it, and yet it's also one of the best things I've seen in years. It's just a really, it's kind of Little Women in that, like, it's just a sort of nice film. Like, it's it's just sort of a nice, gentle watch. But yeah, it's just this wealthy heiress whose mother wants a portrait of her commissioned, and she refuses to show her face for any portrait artist. So eventually, this kind of younger woman gets hired, and they end up like bonding, and it's like them finding themselves and their queerness. And it's a really lovely looking film. It's just very enjoyable to watch. It looks gorgeous. Like, every shot looks like a painting. And yeah, it just sounds so bizarre to say, because like it's a film functionally without conflict. It's just women both platonically and romantically just bonding and hanging out, and it's great. It's really great. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard to like talk much about it because there's not much to it, but it's just exceptionally good and gorgeous, and it does a lot of people found the ending quite tearjerkery and emotional. I, being made of stone and bleakness, did not feel that. I did think it was a very good ending. It is very emotionally charged. I did not cry at it, but it was good. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that film.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have two left. You should have two left too, if maths is all working correctly.
One of them is a shared one.
Yes, that's probably my top one. So I'm gonna do that one
Okay,
last.
we'll do that last. Yeah. So I'll go for my second last one, which is Vivarium.
Oh yes, I forgot that was coming. That's also a shared one. It's not shared in the top 10 list, but I have seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I kind of love Vivarium was just, it's not subtle at all.
No.
It's just doing its thing, and it kind of does its thing to the point where, like, it just becomes utter madness, and I really, really like that. Yeah. What
I
were your thoughts?
enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I think it was mainly just the fact that I think I found out afterwards like it is based on a short film, and I think that concept
Oh, okay.
definitely lends itself better to a short film. I think
Mhm.
again, I did not dislike it. I just, as you're saying,
Mhm.
like it's very unsubtle. It's very overtly what it is.
Mhm.
I think the fact that it starts off and very quickly gets into the surreal stuff. So like
Mhm.
there's literally one scene of them in the quote unquote real world, and then it almost
Mhm.
immediately jumps into the
Yeah.
sci-fi stuff, which is fine. I usually approve of that, but I
Mhm.
actually wish there was more of them just being a couple in the real world to get a
Mhm.
better sense of them and their dynamic, and just to give you like less
Mhm.
time in the sci-fi stuff, because by the end I was kind of exhausted with it. Like it just you've spent so long in that one house, which I know is sort of the point. Like that's kind of
Mm.
in a literal sense what they're trying to make you feel exhausted by that house.
Mhm.
Um, but also I just feel like the kind of allegory didn't evolve enough over the like
Yeah.
90 minutes, hour and a half, or hour
Mhm.
and 40, or it was, to like justify the length of it. I think the short film would have been better, but I do think it's good,
Mhm.
and the performances are great. I think Eisenberg is strangely cast in that movie. I can't tell if I think it's
Mm.
good or bad casting, because it's the idea of him as like a very like rough toxic masculinity personified like handyman is almost like laughable on
Mm.
paper.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair.
he wasn't bad in it though, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't really fault it, but even though I'm like, is it good casting?
Yeah.
I love Imogen Poots. I love her in anything, and she's great in this.
Mhm.
Um, the child is very annoying, but again, that's the point.
Yes,
um,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did think the child was really terrifying and
yeah,
great.
yeah.
It's funny, yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I uh, liked where the film ultimately went either. Like, I love the idea
Are you saying
of
it was too bleak, Sarah?
maybe. I did love the obviously the sort of ultimate conceit of like house basically. I mean, all but basically, eating its tenants whole,
Mhm.
one way or the other. Like I did love the idea of like you're basically, yeah, you're spending your whole time digging your own grave. That was
Yeah.
great. But actually, I think that the fact that it was ultimately like being like giving, yeah, it was your like your kids are the, your kid will basically destroy you. I think that actually that was I didn't think that was where the film was ultimately going to go, and I think
Mm,
that was a kind of a weirdly regressive message.
I also thought that the allegory almost breaks down that like last
Yeah,
scene,
yeah,
and it just becomes the sci-fi plot, which is like that's fine, but I feel like the film is kind of it sort of feels like a message film up to that point. So then to just
yeah, yeah,
drop
yeah. I
that and
think
go
you're
back to the
right.
sci-fi thing, because I know like the very opening credits literally tells you the plot, where it's the cuckoo's nest being
Mm,
invaded. Like that's literally what it's for. It's just an alien
yeah.
forcing birth upon, or like forcing his child upon the human couple or whatever. So like it's not inconsistent, but it does feel weird. Like I can agree with you that it just, if you take the allegory to its literal conclusion with what they're saying, it does feel like a strange fit. Like it fits the sci-fi plot, but it doesn't feel like it fits the actual subtext or
Mm,
the text, I suppose.
yeah.
There's no something. Yeah, it's not
Hmm.
subtle. But
Yeah.
I did quite like the bleakness of it, because again, like Palm's Rings, it does feel like the millennial fear of,
Mm,
which I know that's
yeah.
not necessarily a fear of our generation. It's always been there that suburbia is just this purgatory. But yeah, like the literal digging your own grave, the fact that they're a very young couple, and then almost immediately like his really toxic traits come out as soon as they're
Yes.
stuck together,
Yeah.
and her more like progressive like free woman thing vanishes to become like a much more like matronly
Mm,
figure. And like, it's interesting. It is very
yeah.
bleak though, like everything else we talked
Yeah.
about tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think I really admire it just for like what it attempted.
Mhm.
And I think in a lot of ways it did succeed, and then in some kind of disappointing ways it didn't. But yeah,
Yeah,
I really really liked it. Definitely in my top 10 for the
totally fair.
year.
Okay, so the controversial one.
Hmm.
I almost included this out of obligation in my top 10, because I do really enjoy it, but I also feel like it's a film that came out technically last year, and it's been talked to. It doesn't need to be anyone's top 10 because everyone knows about it. But Parasite,
Hmm.
which I don't really have anything to say. Like, again, what's left to be said? I thought it was a thoroughly enjoyable, just drama, thriller, occasional comedy. One singular really good jump scare moment.
Hmm.
Not even jump scare, there's one really good horror moment. I suppose the only thing worth noting is I watched it in black and white recently for like second time.
Hmm.
No, yes, I saw it once in color, and then yeah, black and white. And I think it's worth watching in black and white just once, because it like the contrast of like the basement stuff, not the basement they
Okay.
live in, the basement of the secret basement,
Hmm.
the spoiler basement, if you've not seen it somehow.
Hmm.
Like that's much more visually stark in the color version because it's all like just gray and monotone. Whereas if you're watching the whole film in black and white, it sort of blurs those lines more. So I think it sort of
Okay.
puts everyone else kind of on a level kind of playing field visually, which is kind of interesting.
Hmm.
But otherwise, there's not much more to add to it in black and white. But it is, it still works in black and white, which is good.
Hmm.
But Sarah, I think you have some opinions on this film that aren't towing the party line.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I kind of, to be honest, didn't like it.
Ooh,
Yeah, I
strong.
know. Like, I mean, and again, I think it's probably is good in a lot of ways, and it just didn't gel with me. But it was in ways that really annoyed me. Like in particular, I really didn't like certain parts of the violence.
Okay.
Really made me uncomfortable, and not because I felt, oh no, this movie shouldn't have violence, but in particular, there's kind of two parts. Which one was, when the poor families are all fighting it out, they're all kind of in a big mass on the floor, pulling at each other's hair and like wrestling,
Mhm,
while the
mhm.
rich people kind of watch them. Or like basically the rich people have kind of caught them. I kind of felt that was weirdly l- inviting the audience to laugh. Like, I don't understand what the point of that was. It just seemed really mean spirited in a film that probably shouldn't be.
Okay,
Like,
that's fair.
similar. I remember I was talking with my brother about the kind of there are. It's kind of similar to me too in the Lord of the Rings movies. The way that when like Gollum is talking to himself, and a lot of people find that
Yeah.
funny, and it's like it's not really,
Okay.
there's no jokes being made or anything, but it's
Yeah.
nearly like the film is kind of tempting you to laugh, or it's like leaving it open so that you
Mm.
can laugh. I feel like it's similarly happening in Parasite at that moment. And I watched The Host, one of his other films. It's just there's kind of a similar moment where there's like a poor family are like mourning the fact that their one of their that their daughter has died. And similarly, they're all kind of like lying on top of each other, like crying hysterically and stuff. But it's kind of funny. Like it's set up to be kind of comical. And like it's just kind of moments like that. Like maybe I'm missing something in translation or something. But it just seemed to me like, similarly when the woman who falls down the stairs and like bashes
Mhm.
her head. Like, I remember people in the cinema laughing, and I don't think they were wrong to laugh either. Like, feel like that was set up as like the way that scene was set up. That was kind of a comedic take. Um,
Yes, I know the exact scene you mean. I remember distinctly watching it the first time, and I also, when she does the kick, I laughed. But the second she hits the bottom step and like you hear her head crack, like I think it's trying to bait you into laughing there. I think
yeah.
that's meant to be a laugh, but then I'm going to pull the rug out and like make you think you shouldn't be laughing at this. And
Hmm.
that is sort of a dickish directing to do, but I don't really fault that. And
Hmm.
I think the broader point you're making, I don't disagree with. I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt because he seems like a nice man.
Hmm.
And say that maybe it is a lost in translation because I think now I haven't seen the host, but the scene you're describing there and the one in Parasite, I feel like maybe it's meant to be laughed at, not so much in a laughing down at them kind of way, but more just the absurdity of the image. Like I think the idea of all that crying does sound. I can see how that would be funny as like just a slightly overwrought, absurd visual,
Hmm.
maybe. But that's probably the only defense I can
Hmm.
think of.
Yeah, like I suppose it does seem like that in Parasite that the poor are kind of depicted in ways that the rich aren't, in like a more slovenly way. Um, like
Right.
in particular, or another thing that kind of I didn't like was the motif of smell that went through the film.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't disagree with the idea that like, oh, if people are poor, maybe they don't get to wash their clothes as often, like that tracks. But the idea that the wealthy have like a better sense of smell, have a more like sensitive nose, or especially kind of good at recognizing smells, kind of has weird connotations to me, because I think the idea that like rich people are more sort of sensitive, more sophisticated, have more sophisticated palates and things. These are kind of really dangerous stereotypes that should be challenged in films like this.
Okay. I actually, I hadn't thought of it that way. I do agree with you in terms of that reading of it.
Mhm.
I think I didn't think about the smell thing in that I just took it more as an indictment of the richer people, because it sort of proves that their life is so sterile, and they just like they get they live in their big mansion on the hill, and then they get like chauffeur driven to the office. Like
Mm.
there's no point where they have to engage with like anything but their own smell. Like they don't have to mix with the general population.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily that their smell is more like sensitive. It's more just that they're in their own like echo chamber
Mhm.
smell wise, if that allegory makes sense. So they're just used to that. Whereas anything new is like immediately
Mm.
an enemy to them almost, which I think is probably a reasonably damning view of the rich. But that's again, I think that's one thing that you can definitely take it either way. And I think your reading is not invalid or anything. It's
Mm.
I had not thought of it that way, but yeah, that's not unreasonable.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not, they're not necessarily deal breakers. They like
Hmm.
it sort of is for me, but I understand why it shouldn't be
Yeah.
for other people, because yes, you can read these things in many ways. What did you think about the ending as well? Because I'm just curious about the guy coming up to murder the father of the poor family, murdering the father of the rich family. Like, was it very? Because I haven't seen that movie, it made me think that it was what the Joker was going to be like, but I don't know if it was or wasn't.
I hadn't really thought about comparing the two, but yeah, now that you say it, that is kind of what the Joker's like, I suppose. If you replace Rich
Interesting.
Father with Robert De Niro. Yeah. I thought the ending was weird, but I also feel like once you've got that many plates in the air, I don't really know how you end that kind of film.
Yeah.
I thought like following like the emotion of those characters'
Mm.
arcs, I thought him murdering him made sense. That's just like a rash thing to do. Because like you just seen him like, see, that's the thing, because that character doesn't know they're a family, so to him he just saw like one of his staff get stabbed
Yeah.
and he doesn't care, whereas he's like, that's my daughter. And like, I think it does make sense for him to do the murder.
Oh yeah. No, sorry, it totally does. Like, it totally does.
Oh, sorry.
I would actually. I remember. Yeah, I was reading something which was like saying like, there's nothing wrong with the murder. In fact, the murder is probably the right thing. It's just that they kind of portray it as though it's like a horror or a tragedy or something, where it's like, nah, like that's you gotta shiv the rich. Like that's like, let's not act as though this is something sad that's happened.
I guess my reading that would be that it's morally justified. Oh, that's a strong sentence. It's is justifiable within reason of his whatever. But that the reason it would be framed as a tragedy, well, I thought anyway, was more for him opposed to the person he'd killed, because that's his life over. Because like he's not getting out of that one. Like if he gets caught, he will be arrested. He will be put to jail. Like there's no way of him getting like a lawyer that can get him out of it or something. So I think the tragedy of the depiction is more that he's just decided to basically end his own life by getting that kind of act of petty revenge. Not even petty revenge, but it's kind of on the cosmic scale. Like it doesn't change anything. It just sort of makes him feel momentarily better. That would be my take of why it's depicted as a tragedy. Not because, oh no, poor rich man go die now. It's more just like he does end his life because he's trapped in the basement then forever after that. But yeah, no, again, I it's it's open to more interpretation than I necessarily realized initially. But yeah.
Theme for me this year is that I just want kind of less subtlety now. Like, I think that there ultimately for me there was kind of a little bit too much room to read in your own view on the rich family and on the poor family, whereas I just like a film that was like, actually the rich family 100% bad. Sorry guys, that's but
So Knives Out, but without the small bit of old white man saves the day.
Pretty much, yeah. But that's my take.
I think that's not unfair. I remember before it came out, like I heard about it a lot, and I heard people saying that it didn't demonize either of them, and I was like, that's interesting. But I also remember thinking, but why doesn't it demonize one of them?
Yeah.
And you know which one I mean.
Exactly.
But I did think it made for a good balancing act though, because I think if one of them, if the rich ones were like obvious monsters, it wouldn't have been able to like last as long as it did. Like I feel like the joy of it the enjoyment of it is kind of the fact that it's there aren't really any villains in it for the most part, even though like there are, and like
Mm.
in a cultural sense there is, but like on a immediate like one to one there isn't, and I think it makes it more watchable, and like
Mhm.
it means it can kind of the tension of it and that setup can last longer
Mhm.
before it falls apart because they don't hate the rich family, so it's sort of just we'll take our share of this that we can like eke out, but we're not going to murder them until we do.
Mhm.
But
Mm.
yeah, no, I don't disagree with what you just said because I had the same thought before I saw it. But mm, mm,
Well,
complicated feelings.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so the last one, which is the shared one, which
Mm.
I don't really have a number one of the year, but this is probably as close as I'll get to it.
Mm.
But this is another Netflix release, Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Mm.
I don't even know what to say about it because I don't fully know what the plot was after watching
Mm.
it. I have an idea and I have an interpretation, but I don't know that's what the actual story was.
Mm. Yeah, I don't.
Do you have any broad anchoring thoughts to start us off with?
Well, yeah, I can't say that I even got as far as you have in terms of what it might mean. Um, but yeah, yeah, I don't know if this is a weird thing, but I kind of, in a way, wish that it had all been just them driving in the car. Like I found that
I know
I
what you
found that
mean.
so
Hmm.
hypnotic and just
Yeah.
yeah, really like the rest was great. Well, yeah, I'd nearly like have two separate films. There's a rare film that can probably hold your attention like that, but they really did. It was great.
I think I'd have been content if it was the initial car bit, the house bit, and then the second car bit. I think the very last,
Okay.
what, like 10,
Mm-hmm.
50 stuff in the high schools where I was like, okay, this is kind of breaking down a bit and me. I'm kind of losing this right a bit.
Mm.
And I know that's like the very, very end in the high school is sort of what's meant to explain, quote
Mm.
unquote, what's happening.
Okay, I didn't even
But no, I
realize
agree. I
that.
think the stuff on the car was great. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I didn't even realize that the end was supposed to like tie it together really, like other like I
Well,
yeah, that's yeah, that makes
the
sense.
version I've heard of it is that the thing I read recently was that it's, and I kind of got a sense of this while watching it, that the janitor is the protagonist, and it's all his fantasy of what he'd
Mm-hmm.
like a relationship to be, but even like his own fantasy kind of gains her own, what's the word looking for here? Not sentience so
Okay.
much as agency.
Yeah, okay.
Um, and like that
Huh.
last shot of him just in the car, like collapsing or fainting from hypothermia or whatever it was, just like that's the
Mm.
last. This is all like the last gasp of his mind as he
Okay.
dies, I guess.
Huh.
That bit in the high school, and it's the play on stage. I did think that was like him, like sort of saying to the universe, "This is what I deserve. I deserve like where's my parade," kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's just like he's your average blue collar American
Mm-hmm.
man whose back the country is built on, kind of thing. Like where's my accolades? Um,
Mm-hmm. Huh.
but yeah, no, I agree. Like it's mainly just the fact that it is so like hypnotic, and once I got to the house, it was genuinely quite creepy because I actually remember
Mm.
thinking in the initial carpet, I'm getting vague Hereditary vibes off this for some reason. I couldn't explain
Okay.
it. And you get the house, and there is Tony Collette. I was like, oh, well, here we are. Um, but yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah.
The way like the background changes and the costumes change, like the really
Mm.
subtle stuff that starts getting weird initially before you realize
Yeah.
that it is just totally non-linear and just nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say about it. I thought it was great. Jessie Buckley is phenomenally good.
Yeah.
I've not seen her in anything bar this, I don't think.
Okay.
Because I remember you mentioned the other thing she was in a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
What was that again?
Wild Rose.
Wild Rose,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
she's incredible, and so is Clemens. He's always good.
Mm.
Did you think while watching it that because it's a Charlie Kaufman movie that would have been played by Seymour Hoffman were he still around?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's all I could think about. I felt like
Ah,
this is the closest I can get to Seymour Hoffman
that's
as
a good
Jesse
point,
Plemons, and
actually.
it's like
Yeah,
it's so similar. It's almost
that's
uncanny. I feel
yeah,
like he's doing an impression of him sometimes.
that's a really good point. Yeah. Um. Yeah. No, I hadn't thought of it, but like, yeah, they look quite alike and stuff. That's a good call. I think. I mean, a lot of the dialogue was great, but I love just the opening, which is basically Jessie Buckley's character talking about how great a time, or to her. Is she talking? Who knows? Is it her? Is it not her? But her voice over
Mhm.
talking about how great a time she's having with the Jesse Clement's character, and then then ending it with I'm thinking of ending things it was just like a really amazing kind of snapshot of
Yeah.
your desire to self-sabotage at like when everything seems to be going right for once. So it was a really good way of like introducing the movie, I think.
Which I guess also kind of ties into like Vivarium and Palm Springs, and that like this perfect base level of contentment isn't really enough. Like you need something more than just ticking along.
True.
Yeah, like it's a film I'd struggle to recommend to anyone, I think, because it requires so much like homework and effort on the viewer's part. But I just thought it was like so engrossing and just enrapturing and just incredible. It's
Yeah.
based on a book or a novella that I'm quite curious to read
Yeah.
now, which is allegedly quite different, at least in the ending. So I guess that's 2020,
Yeah.
guys. Well done surviving it. Any particular film looking forward to next year?
I don't know
Any of the
because
many cancelled / pushed back films?
that's it. Like I'm really hoping we will see the new version of Candyman.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, but yeah, again, will we? I don't know. What about you?
I'm shocked that one didn't go to VOD yet. I think Nia DaCosta
Yeah.
was very adamant that
Yeah.
it wouldn't. Like I think she
Okay.
probably fought for it, so I'm glad because I wouldn't mind seeing that in cinema. And also, again, I don't want another female director of this film just dumped on VOD.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. After so many politics, after all that politics and all that like films directed by women, to now say that the film I'm looking forward to most is probably the new Bond movie,
Yay.
will probably even things out of it.
We've just got 50% of our viewers back.
Exactly. It's okay, friends. I am a friend of the chauvinism. Welcome back to the warm embrace of the woman hating hour or whatever this now is. But yeah, no, I'm sure there's other more worthy films. I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing, is it Promising Young Woman? I've heard very strange things about it, and I don't know what way it'll go, but I think it's going to be one of those exhausting discourse films. But it sounds interesting.
Good. Yeah, hopefully it will be a good year, and in 12 months' time we'll be here trying to remember everything again. Yeah.
I've been Richard. That's been Sarah.
Yeah.
See you who knows when.
Yeah. See you then.